All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to the IKEA Kitchen Design Battle. A few months ago, Jeff from Homestud Studios and I came up with this marvelous idea to each design a kitchen using the same layout. And what we're going to do today is reveal those kitchens to you. Each of us have not seen the other's kitchen, and we decided it would be a fun, friendly competition, not really competition, but something that we could do to just be kind of interesting for you, the viewer, and just to see how two different designers approach a kitchen design when they're given the same layout. Now, the only parameters that we had is that we could only use IKEA kitchen cabinets. And other than that, the sky is pretty much the limit. And you're going to see these designs right now. So what's going to happen, I'm going to bring Jeff on the screen. He's going to say hello. And then we're going to jump right into my design first, because personally, I think it's probably the simpler of the two designs, and then we'll see what happens from there. As we go along, please type your questions into the chat, and we would love to try to answer them live on the air. All right, so let's do this.
What's going on, Mark?
Jeff, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We've been planning this for a while, and we're both fairly nervous, may I say.
Well, now, especially now that you've put me on the spot here with what my design has to look like in comparison. So I hope it lives up to the hype.
It will. I'm sure it will, because from what I understand, you're an IKEA pro.
That is exclusively what we work on. Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to say a few things, and then we're going to jump into my design?
You know what? You pretty well covered it all. I think the important aspect is this wasn't so much a battle in terms of whose is better, but in terms of providing people with the idea that one space can have more than one right option, as opposed to one layout fits for everything or for that particular space. It's important to remember that there is wiggle room, and there's the ability to change cabinet placement or appliance placement when you are planning these kitchens out.
Yeah, awesome. It's very true. So we're going to highlight that with both of our designs.
Well, hopefully they're not like identical in terms of layout.
It could be. I don't think they're going to be, but we'll see in a minute. One thing I will mention, if you're watching, if this stream drops for any reason, just hang on tight. Computers are funny things, so just so you know that going into this. So I'm going to bring up my design, and we'll get Jeff. This is the first time you're going to see it, and see what you think. It's really quite impressive. All right, here we go.
Oh, we went super different. This is good.
All right, Jeff, I'm just kidding. This is my pretend fake design. I just wanted to do something a little bit funny. However, in saying that, as I did this, I'm like, well, this could actually work if you had a budget that you could only go small as a small kitchen. But notice I added all the little treatments to everything. I did that on purpose because we said we weren't going to do that.
I was going to say, you really went all out with the decoratives.
Yeah. And once we chatted about the flooring the other day, I said, well, I want to just put the craziest flooring I could possibly put in this thing. Anyway, this is not my real kitchen. I will put up the real one here in a second, but I just thought that'd be fun. All right, here we go. Here's the real one. All jokes aside. Let's see here. I got a few different views. I was going to pull it right up in Pro Kitchen.
Are you pulling it up in 3D first, or are you going to go 2D first?
I'm just going to show you the JPEGs for the space. I'm not going to pull it up in Pro Kitchen. So here's just a look at one of the layouts here. So I went fairly basic with an L shape, and let me just see if I can. Hold on. It's quite apparent that we haven't done this before, so you may have to bear with us for a little while as we figure this out. Here's an overhead view, and we'll go from there. All right.
Okay.
All right. Here's what I did. Obviously, pantry and fridge on that. I'm calling this an inside wall because I wasn't sure it was on the other side of it. I knew there was an outside wall on that window, so we went with that. Fridge and pantry together. That's my storage zone. Lots of landing area underneath. You'll notice as we get into this, Jeff, that, and you probably know I'm not a fan of corners.
I know you're
And
not. Yes.
So I wasn't going to veer from that in this design. So there's no corner cabinet either on the base or on the wall for this layout. We did something totally different there. Sink cabinet range, dishwasher storage range, and then the island. I'll bring up another view. But what do you think so far?
I think we have the same appliance layout.
Oh no. Okay.
You know what though? Logically, when you discuss going through it and you're talking about exterior walls versus interior walls, that should really be focused upon when planning a design, because ranges are best vented directly outside, as we both know. And without further understanding of what's in the space in terms, is there a second story? Is there a bathroom behind that other wall? It does make the most sense to stick the range on the exterior wall. It's the easiest way to vent it. So that was kind of the starting point for me too. So we're very similar in terms of major appliance layout. Okay, cool. So I went with obviously the range on the outside wall, and that is exactly why, because I wanted to get that air outside. And unless I'm in a situation where I just absolutely cannot, then we'll cross that bridge when we have to. But I think it's best to get the air. We might have lost Mark here for a second. Now we've lost Mark's display as well. Well, I'm not entirely sure if you guys can hear me, as I'll continue on what Mark was discussing about that hot air coming out, or the cooking gases coming out. And it's really important to think about venting when you're planning that range placement, because at the end of the day, you do want to try and exhaust as much of that air out of the house as possible. So I think that's the major reason why Mark and I both opted to place our ranges on that exterior wall. It looks like we have him back.
Cool. Am I back? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen. So
I was just spending a minute talking about that hot air, just elaborating on what you were saying. Okay, cool.
So this is a picture of just that one wall with the fridge, pantry. Now, IKEA has not a lot of options, I find, for microwaves. So this particular unit would be something you have to make fit on site. So I'm using a 30-inch base cabinet, and I think you'd have to go ahead and just buy the drawer assembly and make this. But I think if you're putting in an IKEA kitchen, you have some flexibility with being able to make some things on the spot. And this would be one of the things. There's no reason why I don't think you could, whatever you do in a pantry, you could put it in that cabinet. You just have to think a little bit on your feet on site. But give me your thoughts on that, because I'm sure you probably cross this bridge quite a bit.
So interestingly enough, I also have my microwave placed in a base drawer cabinet.
Okay, cool.
And so it really depends so what I stress with clients when it comes to base cabinets with built-in appliances is to choose your appliance first. It's much harder to say buy a 24-inch cabinet and then try and force a particular microwave or little convection cooker, whatever it might be, in that particular cabinet, as opposed to saying I have X appliance and I want to fit it in my kitchen. It's much easier to place the appliance once you already know the appliance you're trying to place, if that makes sense, as opposed to trying to place an appliance forced on the cabinetry you would rather have. So in the case of IKEA, built-in microwaves, depending on the size, can fit in a 24 or 30-inch cabinet. There is no right answer there. The key is just making sure when you're doing it, you are adding the right elements to that cabinet. So you're adding a shelf in for it to sit on. You're making sure that shelf has some stability, some bracing underneath it, especially because some of those units can get pretty heavy. And on top of that, you're making sure it's wide enough and it's got the right cutout that'll fit your particular microwave or whatever it might be in that base cabinet. So no, it is definitely doable. There's usually a little bit of trim work around the outside with some filler panels to cover everything up and make sure there's no gaps showing. But it's typically not that difficult with microwaves.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. So
no, very doable.
Yeah, I figure like once you get on site, you can do these things. I mean, I've dealt with some really great installers over the years, and you just give them something and say, "This is kind of what I want," and you need to make this work because I promised the client that you could do it.
Yeah,
So they're like, oh, okay.
That's the key. It all comes down to I don't want to say the ability, it's the comfort of the installer to make the pieces fit accordingly. So typically in a lot of microwaves, you'll wind up with almost a oval shaped cutout in a filler panel or a U-shaped cutout in a filler panel. And as long as those are all nicely cut, they typically hide behind the trim pieces of the appliances anyways. So you're not going to see any of those ends.
Right. Mom NC says, love the microwave. Low, not over the stove. I agree. Now, we get some comments, and there's another comment here. Like the microwave over the stove. Open shelves. So, obviously, Alan, I'm thinking you understand that I don't like OTR microwaves. And anytime I can, I try not to use an OTR microwave. But I will say this, if the client is asking for it and that's what they want, then we'll cross that bridge. But they're just not my favorite appliance. I think there's better ways to do a microwave. And I'm not going to even talk about open shelves, Jeff. I can't wait to see if your kitchen has open shelves or not. But we're not going to talk about them on this broadcast because we'll get there stir trouble.
We'll get there when we get to mine.
Okay.
Yes, open shelves can be quite the controversy. Let's say the controversial subject when it comes to kitchens. It's something that a lot of people absolutely love. Well, another group just abhors. They're just not a fan, and I tend to fall a little bit more into that second camp. And it's not that I'm not a fan of open shelving. I think it has its place. Looks like we have Mark again.
Yeah, sorry.
I know we said we weren't talking about open shelvings, but I technically was while you were gone for a second there. So just to continue on for a second, open shelving has its place, especially when it's used in the right place in a kitchen. It's just typically not my go-to for all things wall cabinets, wall storage. Let's call it that.
I don't actually hate them either. But you have to be a little bit polarizing on YouTube. So
100%. I mean, I technically can't bash on them too much because I have what I would consider open shelves in my kitchen, but they are at ceiling height and it's with stuff that is purely on display. It's stuff we don't use whatsoever, and it gets its dust once a month and that's it.
Right. Eileen is mentioning, does the microwave have a drawer or a door? I'm assuming the microwave appliance itself. In this particular one, it's a door. My personal microwave here at my house is a pull down, like oven style microwave. I don't know if it would matter, or you can get a drawer pull out style microwave as well, which are interesting. And then there'll be a drawer underneath.
I think the big thing to remember here is when we're dealing in our software, so in Pro Kitchen software, we don't have unlimited choices in terms of cabinetry and in terms of appliances. We are definitely working within the set boundaries of what the program allows us to use. So if you were doing a base drawer like this, I think you probably wouldn't go with a standard opening, like a sideways opening microwave. I think you would go for that oven style door or a pull-out drawer on your microwave, just because then it's easily accessible from the top, as opposed to the sideways door, the hinge door on the side, where you are going to have to get low and get in that way. So I think that's a good point to bring up. Good question. Mark and his technical difficulties today. So when it comes to appliances and when it comes to renderings like this, when we are putting these kitchens together for clients and we're showing them renderings, we're not always able to put in their exact appliance that they're after, or their particular finish on a tile or a countertop. We try and replicate it as close as possible for what we have within our program and what's available to us in our program, with the aspect of the client knowing that they're going to go with something slightly different.
Awesome.
Alrighty, he's back.
Thanks. Anyway, let's have a look at my island real quickly. It's pretty basic. So that's just the front view of the island. Just drawers. This would be garbage pullout. This would be other type of either drawers or pullouts. I have a lot of drawers in this kitchen. I think drawers are the most usable base cabinet that there is. And so I put a lot of drawers in. So just a fairly basic island. Of course, on the back of the island, I went with, the 15-inch deep base cabinets just for extra storage. Yeah, so they're, and then the idea would be you'd have to make sure that you understand with your fabricator the amount of overhang you can have, because you don't want to have any brackets and places to bang your knees on this. So that's kind of the basic look of the island. So overall, Jeff, this is a pretty basic kitchen. Nothing major.
You know what? It's basic, but I think people often misinterpret basic for simple or not really thinking through it. You have spent the time to think about cabinetry placement and where stuff is going, and basic doesn't need to mean ugly or simple or any of that, right? Basic can just mean it's not highly customized. It's not as if it's laid out with a ton of fancy cabinetry or a ton of fancy paneling. It's functional and it's laid out how you like it. And I'm glad to see that we have a few differences in our kitchen on that note too, because I have definitely got a little different, slightly different approach.
This isn't a color I normally use either when I'm designing, but it's a beautiful anthracite color that IKEA has.
I was going to ask you why you opted to go black.
Yeah, I just thought, you know what, it looked really sharp. The pictures I've seen of it are really nice. Used some smoked glass cabinetry on the wall. I did put some under cabinet lighting in there because I know you're a stickler for that lighting. So that's in there. And I want to talk real quickly about the corner cabinets, and then we're going to look at a couple of comments. So the corner cabinet, and Jeff, I don't know, have you ever blocked a corner, or do you make it a habit of doing it?
So I have blocked a corner on, actually I do it quite frequently on wall cabinetry. So the one wall cabinet I'm less a fan of is the blind corner wall cabinet. I find it a lot more difficult to access, and it really just becomes like deep dive storage that people forget about what's back there. I take a different approach when it comes to base corners for sure, because I actually quite like the blind corner cabinet with kidney shaped Lazy Susans in them. But I've owned, going on a half dozen houses or a little less that have all put those in. I've worked in the kitchens and I enjoy them. I enjoy them for myself, and I don't like to waste storage. It's almost like a pet peeve of mine. I don't like to create dead space, even in a kitchen that might have enough space.
Okay. Yeah, I get a lot of flack on the internet about the blocking of corners, but I stand by my principles here.
Well, and that's important. I mean, the idea is that, and with anything in design, especially kitchen design, it's what you love and what works for you might not work for everybody.
And the thing is, I find, although I like to block a corner cabinets they offer a great amount of storage. They have excellent appliances that you can insert, especially with that magic corner. And there's all kinds of different things. I don't know if you've seen I think Blum makes it. It's called a Quattro. It's this thing that raises up in the corner. It's really impressive. I'm sure it costs like an arm and a leg, but there's a lot of solutions out there for corners. But I like to use, instead of putting a Lazy Susan in, if that's my option, or a blind cabinet, I like to use those other flanks of that cabinet a little more efficiently. And so that's why I put the two drawer banks on either side. And then of course the same with the wall cabinets. Now I know, Jeff, you're the one who made up this layout, like the floor plan. And I know you purposely used some dimensions because we were going with IKEA. And I think it's good for people to see that you can do it different ways. And it's just depending on what works for the client, what
I was just typing a question down there for you. And I was going to say, that's important to remember. Like at the end of the day, this was sort of like you said, an IKEA design battle where you don't have that same flexibility with custom cabinetry. And I absolutely put the window in a place that gave, essentially, from my knowledge and working knowledge of designing kitchens, three main options for how you could have laid out that corner. One being the way you opted, which is to block it off and use it accordingly, because I know that's something you like to do.
Did you think I was going to do it?
And I figured you would do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Option 2 is the way I have gone about mine.
Okay. And
then there is another option that maybe we'll get into, or maybe we won't, but it is similar in sense to blocking it off and going with not entirely blocking it off, just a different style of corner cabinet.
I'm not going to say it out loud, but I've already guessed what you've done in your corner. So,
well, yeah, I think it's fairly obvious how my corner's laid out.
I'm not going to say. Let's just see here. So yeah, so I like to block the corners off again.
I think we've lost Mark again. So yeah, with IKEA cabinetry, it is definitely one of those things where it is an MKT if we're not talking corners or open shelves. That's fair.
You got to be known for something, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Thanks so much. No, that's good. Hey, Steve, glad you could drop a question. And open shelving for walk-in pantries, okay, but not in the kitchen. So many comments on open shelves.
And I think an aspect of the open pantry or walk-in pantry, like I would love one in my kitchen, a pseudo Butler's pantry, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have the space. I'm in a 100-year-old farmhouse, and we are a very limited by structure because I'm not going in and changing too much structurally in our house. And we don't have the kitchen size to include one.
Hi, Natalie.
What are the dimensions of the kitchen island?
Yeah, my island's 10 feet by 42 inches. So it's something you can do with a slab, a full size. All right, we back?
Are you there? Yeah, I think we got you again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, everyone who's watching, thanks so much for just hanging with us as the signal drops over and over again. That's just the way it goes. You can give us one of those if you so desire. We appreciate it. All right. So Jeff, I think you got an idea of my kitchen. Any other questions you want to ask about it? I'll give the overhead real quick, and then we want to get into yours.
So one question I do have, and this is what I was typing out, is if you were given this as a main floor plan and you were laying out this kitchen for somebody and laying out and say they asked you a question of how would you place your dining table or how would you create your dining room in this space? Because you will notice that I put patio doors or sliders or French doors, whatever might be there, out to, let's call it a back patio or a deck. And then I also put another bank of windows on the other wall. How would you lay out your dining table in this room?
Okay, well, I took it out, Jeff. I should have left it in now that you're asking that, because I put a ping pong table and two people standing there, and I said, I'll take that out. I don't want to be like too much of a goof.
Could play ping pong on the island. Stretch a little net. I don't know what the regulation size ping pong table is, but it'd probably work. I think we've lost Mark again. It did sound like he was having a little bit of internet troubles at the house this morning. And for those of you that don't know, Mark and I are nowhere near each other. We are virtually across the country from one another. He's way out on the East Coast, and I'm out west in Alberta. So, but I haven't seemed to have any internet troubles today, whereas Mark did mention he was having a few. So thanks for hanging in there. He should be back here right away.
All right, epic fail on the Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, I was just explaining how we're nowhere near each other, and so your internet might not be anywhere near like my internet or vice versa.
Yeah, Oh well, we'll keep moving along. All right. All right. Did you want to go to your design?
Yeah, well, I was just asking you, but you were going to put a ping pong table, but I'm curious if you
Oh
were
yeah.
going to put your dining table, just orientation wise, not where you'd set it, anything orientation wise. How
Yeah.
would you have set it in here?
So I would have set it like perpendicular to that island,
Yeah, yeah,
lengthwise.
okay.
I,
That's
I,
kind
I
of what I
figured
was
that would
getting
be the
at.
best way.
So I did
Okay.
include a dining table in mind. So
Okay.
we will be
Oh,
able
man,
to
I should have
see.
left that ping pong table in there.
I'm kind of wishing you did. When you were gone, I was saying we could play ping pong table on the island. It's probably big
You
enough.
can do that too. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Okay, I will.
Drum roll, please.
I will bring mine up. I did not take individual screenshots, so I'm going to bring up my 3D.
Okay, cool. Around the way, roll next door. Thanks for joining us so much. Love having you on here. Basic is not boring.
So let me know if you guys can see that.
All right, here we go. Oh, look at him with the extra cabinets over there.
Yeah, so I took a bit of a different approach.
Wow.
And so I'll talk about I'll admit, Mark, I cheated a hair.
Okay.
Just a hair when it came to our cabinetry rule of it had to be IKEA in terms of sizing.
Okay.
A set of my doors, so my island doors and my gables around my bar area are technically not IKEA, though they are made for IKEA products. So I don't know if it's picking up all right as I zoom in here. So we'll focus on this side first. How's that looking, Mark? Am I losing Mark now? Did I lose him again? Can everybody still see my kitchen? Let's go with that. I'll make it a little smaller here. So basically my layout opted for the same L shape that Mark went with on his. And the big thing, or the big major approach I took, was laying out in a system to not interrupt workflow for the overall kitchen. So as Mark stated, putting an island in here of a certain size that's not so big that it interrupts the flow of the house was important. And it was important to me.
Edge.
What's that? Oh, what? You're back.
Waterfall.
Yes, and I did opt to go waterfall, and I'll get into why specifically in a minute too. So I don't know if you heard me earlier, Mark, or if you had disappeared for a second, but I cheated a little, and my cabinet doors would either have to be purchased through Kitch, which is a third-party manufacturer here in Alberta,
Okay.
or All Style Doors, which is a third-party manufacturer out in Ontario.
Okay.
So I went this route because I was hoping you wouldn't, so it would give us a little bit of discrepancy or difference between the two kitchens.
Yeah.
But basically the idea behind it is that you don't necessarily have to choose IKEA doors when you build an IKEA kitchen.
Good point. Yeah.
And so all of my wood grained walnut doors are all purchased aftermarket, though one thing we didn't get into with yours, and we will get into at the end overall, is cost.
Right.
Because it is important to remember when you go aftermarket, your costs change rather drastically. So anyways, basic layout, L shape, same as Mark. I'm not going to dive into appliance placement because like him, I put my range on the outer wall as well. Now, my wife and I love to cook, so a range has always been front and center in our kitchens. We spend a lot of time using it. So I opted to go for a 36-inch range, go a little bit bigger, a little bit more bold.
Nice.
And then with that, I also went with a range hood that is relatively hidden and disguised. Right. So it's just wrapped in, well, not just wrapped. That would be a rather expensive wrap, admittedly, if you were using quartz countertop.
Sure.
But it is wrapped in matching quartz to hide the range hood. You know, it's a focal piece that's still there, but it's not something that screams, I'm a range hood out loud. It's a little more subdued. I did go for waterfall edges. We'll go for that. We'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
And then in terms of microwave placement, I also went with a base microwave on the backside of my island.
Cool.
Similar setup to you. You do have to do a little bit of customization to fit it. We talked about all that, so we're not going to hammer in that point anymore.
I like the color you chose.
That's, you know what? I didn't think you'd go black. And I love a black kitchen in the right space. So black to me is a color that when you have an area large enough to withstand a dark color, I really like it using it.
Yeah, nice.
That being said, I probably wouldn't recommend it in a house like mine with 3 kids under the age of 10. You will be constantly cleaning marks off your cupboards,
Yeah,
whereas white tends to hide that a little better,
yeah,
or
for
lighter
sure.
colors in general. So same as you, Mark, I went opted for pantries tucked in over on the side beside the fridge. So in
Okay.
this case, storage, lots of pantry storage, full drawer banks inside on the lowers.
Yeah,
Especially with 24-inch deep pantries, it's nice to add that accessibility and that organization option inside. Because if you have 24-inch deep shelves and you're pushing stuff to the back, you're gonna forget it's there over time. Whereas when you have drawers, it's just easy. You pull it out, you have everything right at your fingertips, right below you. Especially with IKEA and the fact they use full extension drawer systems. So
understood.
on my corner, so let's kind of work our way around. So on the back corner of the kitchen over here, I also do not like corners for wall cabinetry. So I decided to end my wall cabinets
Oh, okay,
flush
yeah.
with my backsplash. And I did this for a few reasons. One, I didn't want to surround my range hood with cabinetry in any way. I wanted it
Okay.
to stand on its own
Mm-hmm.
and draw some attention to the back wall of the house and draw people through to the windows and the patio door as opposed to cabinetry there, and bring people and give people the inside outside feel that kitchens like this can have. Um, I opted to just go standard wall cabinets here, no glass doors, because in my mind, you're storing stuff like extra cups and your bowls, maybe, that are easily accessible, but not necessarily the nicest stuff to look at. So I like that you went smoked glass as opposed to just straight see-through glass there. I also have under cabinet lighting because, like you said, that is definitely something I think is important in including when you have wall cabinetry. So moving around, that is basically the layout of my wall and my upper cabinets. So like I said, I didn't put anything on the back of my kitchen here, just some lighting, some decorative sconces on each side, which adds a little bit more task lighting around your range. And I really laid out my cabinetry in terms of how you would go about, or how I think you would go about working in this kitchen. So I made sure there was ample room around my sink on either side, ample room on either side of my range. And in particular, I left about 4 feet between my range and my sink because this often becomes our primary prep areas. And then when it comes to our fridge, we have drop zones either right beside or on our kitchen
Right.
island. I mean, with a kitchen island, it's pretty easy to add drop zones for your fridge. And in terms of storage and how I would go about storing stuff, let's just bring up a top view here. It's probably the easiest way to look at it. So I have two 24-inch banks here. I would look at those as your pots and pans type storage, maybe some internal hidden drawers in the top set to include stuff like cooking utensils or your
Right.
spices. These also have drawers inside. I should note, IKEA is a little funky in that their 21-inch base cabinets
Yeah.
cannot be made with external drawers. They have to have internal drawer, or they don't have to have internal drawers, but they are internal drawers only if you do want to go the internal drawer route. Now, what I view this area is as my kids are getting older and prepping for school, it's really nice to kind of have a grab and go area for snacks as they're packing lunches and stuff like that. As opposed to them, say, digging in your pantry, it's really nice. You could dedicate a single base cabinet with some drawers in it. They could pull it out, grab a granola bar or whatever they want to throw in their lunch. And that's how I went about this area. I also like
Cool.
the aspect of it tying in door-wise with my corner cabinet, because my corner cabinet, unlike Mark's, does extend all the way to the corner under here. And it is set up as a blind style corner cabinet with Lazy Susans. Now, the reason I like those is because we all typically have small appliances of some sort that don't get brought out all the time. So in our case, we've got an Instapot. It doesn't come out daily. It might not even come out for a week or two. We tuck ours inside one of those Kidney Susans. It hides in the back corner of that cabinet. Therefore, we're actually using the space without having to worry about digging it out all the time.
Right.
So I think when you're choosing a blind corner cabinet, or if you're going to include a blind corner cabinet, really think about what you're planning to use it for storage. The other shelf in our blind corner cabinet is made up of a canning pot, so a big deep canning pot, again, an item that does not come out very often, and therefore it can hide back there. I don't need to worry about it.
It's interesting. That's one of the things sometimes gets missed, is not thinking through what are the things that you have and that you need to store. And sometimes between a client and a kitchen designer, that can get lost. And we just design you a kitchen, and then, but you have certain appliances and certain things that you need to store, and it's good to think through that. So if a blind corner cabinet with a pull-out, appliance was really going to be beneficial, it's important to talk through that, why it's beneficial and what you need it for. So
100%. I think a lot of, actually, and it's not even just clients necessarily working with designers. I talk to people quite often that are planning their own kitchens, and it's important to plan the kitchen for you. And I think I have an entire video kind of talking about this. You can either design it for the you, or the you think you are / the you want to be, and
Instagram you.
That's right. And most of the time that you doesn't really exist. So plan for yourself. Like if you're a messy cook, or you like to spread out, make sure you have the room to do that. If you have more small appliances than an average kitchen, make sure you plan for that storage. Like give everything a home in your cabinet when you're planning, whether it's drawers or base cabinets, or specifically dedicated cabinets like that. Revashelf makes the one for the stand mixer. I was saying I've put more of those in the kitchens this year than I have probably ever before, just because people really like the accessibility of just grabbing that shelf, lifting it up, and having their stand mixer at the ready. So it's absolutely important to take the time, think about what you have, what you're going to be storing, and make sure there's places for it. Okay, so let me dive back into this design. I'm going to dive into the backside of my island here.
Okay.
So like you, Mark, I opted for a main set of drawers, taking up the middle of my island. And my thinking here is you're directly near the dishwasher. You're directly near all of your countertop prep space. You're near your range. Those top drawers would be perfect for things like tea towels, utensils, commonly used items that you might be going in there multiple times a day. And then they're right at your fingertips. And then your base drawers can be used for really a mix of whatever you want, whether it's plates or dishware. That's probably what I would do in this kitchen, because I only went with 2 wall cabinets. I was thinking I would use my plates, my bowls, my common dishware would be sitting in an island drawer. I really like that setup. And then you could be looking at things like Tupperware storage, or serving plates or serving platters down low. Flanking each end of my island, I have 2 12-inch cabinets. So on this side, so the side that would be closest to my range here, I'll scoot around. So on this end of the island, I have a 12-inch pullout. It's a specific cabinet made by IKEA. It's got essentially 2 drawer type shelves inside it. I really like putting those near ranges in most of my designs for cooking oils and vinegars, those tall bottles that don't always store nicely in a cabinet or don't always store nicely in a drawer, but then they're very easily accessible where you're going to be using them right around your range typically.
Yeah, I have one of
mine.
And
then in the other side here, I just have a standard 12-inch standard cabinet. It does have a pull-out looking hardware on it, but that's just strictly for the matching aspect. But what it would be is just a standard cabinet for things like cookie sheets, muffin tins, tall items that don't often store well again, or an awkward item to store in our kitchens.
Trays and whatnot.
Trays, exactly. If you've got big butcher block cutting boards, like there's items like that are hard to find homes for sometimes, and it's important to think about those items as you're planning your kitchen.
Right.
So let me spin around and go back to that. Now that we talked about cooking and cookie trays or muffin tins and that, I'm going to zoom in on my corner because it definitely is a little different than Mark's. So let's zoom in here for
overall, though, I'm pretty surprised at how similar our kitchens are. I'm going to put this comment back up. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining. And yes, they're not integrated because we're North American.
Integrated appliances?
Yeah.
I can't see any of the comments right now. I have the full screen set up for the 3D viewer.
Michael, hopefully you can join us for one of these in the future.
It's integrated. So integrated appliances are definitely something that's a little bit more European in nature than we see here. That's not to say though that you don't see integrated appliances in a lot of kitchens here. Wall ovens, cooktops are becoming more and more common for sure.
Yeah, dishwashers and fridges
are largely still standalone though. Yeah. So in my corner, I went with the blind style corner cabinet. But then, you know what? I'm going to bring up my 2D view here for a second so we can kind of dive in and I'll show you. So when we go that route, we wind up with an awkward 5-inch space in our kitchen. So one of the things I like to do is create what I call the IKEA hidden cabinet, or the IKEA drawer cabinet. And basically what you do is you take an IKEA drawer panel, so a 5-inch drawer front, and you flip it vertically.
Nice.
And what this allows you to do is either use some wasted space. So whether it's for, again, like we use ours in our kitchen for cookie sheets, those muffin tins, but ours is a little bit more paired with the corner. So it's got a little bit more space than just 5 inches. But another great use of this space is to think about some aftermarket products and incorporate something like some soap storage or scrub brush storage, stuff like that, that just gets it off your countertop and out of the way. Now, I will note that if you are going to be storing tea towels or something like that in a cabinet like that, it's important that they're probably dry because they might get a little more musty smelling if they're tucked away. But if you've got items that are not commonly used, or say refill items, it uses some storage as opposed to just putting in a big chunk of filler panel here and forgetting that 5 inches exists.
Nice. I like that. That is really cool.
So, and that's why I said there's kind of 3 main approaches to the corner. The one option is to leave it out completely. Option 2 is to go a blind corner cabinet style with some sort of fake cabinet or hidden cabinet that's hidden behind a drawer front. And then option 3 would have been a standard Lazy Susan L-shaped cabinet with the round Lazy Susans and the bifold door. I typically avoid these as much as possible in designs. I have put them into one of my own kitchens before, and I find the bifold opening really small when it comes to accessing larger items. So again, when you're thinking about what's going to be stored in there, if it's just pots and pans, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're trying to store stuff like Instapots or slow cookers or rice cookers or bread proofing or anything like that, those small appliances that are not necessarily so small anymore, that little opening that's on a bifold L-shaped corner can be quite annoying.
Yeah.
Hence going the blind style, like I did here. I noticed you went.
That's what I thought you were going to do.
Yeah, I noticed you went single basin on your sink. I'm going to touch on it. I went double basin.
Oh no, you never go double.
You know what? I wouldn't change ours. I love our double basin. It's large enough to fit a big pot in both sides. And we do a lot of fall processing. So we have a big garden out back. We spend a lot of time turning a lot of that garden produce into preserves or canned goods or frozen goods for the winter. And having the 2 sinks set up it's definitely something we use a lot of.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it at that.
Oh, we're gonna leave it at that. We're not diving into this any further. Yeah, so that is the basic kitchen layout. Same as Mark, 10-foot island.
Nice.
Mine is a little bit deeper. So with standard cabinets and the hidden cabinet, not the hidden cabinets, but the storage cabinets on the back, I also did the same thing you did.
Yeah.
So I just have standard 15-inch cabinetry on the back side here, 15-inch deep cabinetry. That'll put my island somewhere around that 52 to 55-inch width mark.
Nice.
So a little bit wider than, say, that 4-foot mark we typically like to see, but still not so wide that a single slab wouldn't cover the whole top.
Yeah, that's important, I think. And the waterfall edges, talk about that for a minute.
So I really like waterfall for a couple reasons. I find it can take design from looking... again, I don't want to call it basic, but let's call it...
call it basic. It's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
It takes a kitchen to a whole nother level in terms of sleek. Or,
that's
I have a lot of clients that will say, I want my kitchen to look expensive.
Right.
That's a really easy way to elevate your kitchen to that sleekness or that hotel style look where it's no longer a home style kitchen. It looks like it's got a little bit more oomph, a little bit more pizzazz in terms of the design. And when we go into challenges like this, I look at it from a sense that I spend so much time designing every day with very strict parameters in terms of budget, size, placement, cabinetry layouts. When I get the chance to go free for all, I'd really do something that I would stick in my own house.
Yeah.
And this is a layout that I would absolutely consider sticking in my own house if I had the room for it.
It looks great.
And then on that same note, because I had the room, I went and I cheated a little more, and
You cheated. You cheated big time.
I stuck a little bar or coffee nook off in the corner. So
All right.
one of the things I often, again, get requests for is some sort of bar storage or some sort of coffee nook or some sort of dedicated area for entertaining in spaces. And this can become really difficult in a lot of houses because this is not a small set of cabinetry. You know, it's
No.
two 30-inch cabinets and a 24-inch door. So you're looking at 84 inches wide.
Yeah.
That requires a lot of space. But by the same token, I come from, like I said, I've got a 100-year-old farmhouse, and I've spent a lot of time designing more traditional style homes. And in a lot of those traditional style homes and traditional style dining rooms, you had some sort of hutch anchoring your dining area.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, I view this as sort of that modern hutch that anchors your dining room. And I went with my glass cabinetry over here because this is probably where you've got your wine glasses or your fancy teacups or fancy coffee mugs that are a little bit nicer to put on display. And then I added a wine fridge underneath. So again, this could be, you know, a pop fridge if you've got little kids for easy access outside. They're not running across your whole kitchen. It becomes a really multifunctional piece. But again, I wrapped it in aftermarket paneling, which costs a little bit more. It is easy to, like, it's not as if it's custom wood. It is an ordered panel from these aftermarket companies.
Nice.
So at the end of the day, as much as, like I said, I did cheat a little using Kitsch or All Style, everything you see in my design is purchasable. There is no custom carpentry that's really needed anywhere.
Okay.
And I thought that was important to include. And that's also why I ended up going Waterfall on my island, is because if you do go custom end panels in this case, you would be looking at doing some carpentry or getting custom sizes ordered. Whereas if I go Waterfall in this case, there is no custom work. It all just comes down to your fabricator and your installer measuring and cutting everything to size.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I have to say, I would have you design a kitchen for me any day.
I appreciate that. I mean, that goes for you too. I when you put up your first one, I was like, man, you really didn't use a lot of space, but I'm glad you said it was a joke.
I'll put that one back up real quick. And while I'm doing that, why don't you tell us? Well, I'll tell you guys first what mine cost. Not this one. This is my my little pretend joke kitchen. And though looking at this little kitchen, it's
I think we lost Mark again, but if I'm looking at his little kitchen here, if you had a small budget and say even a small space, he's actually nailed it in terms of functionality. It's got everything you need. It's got ample counter space between his sink and his range. And if you had the room, you could pair this kitchen really easily with like a movable style island, a little butcher block table, or a little kitchen cart. And it would be totally functional to work in. I think we might have still lost Mark. We've lost his screen now too. We can't even talk about his kitchens without him here.
There we go.
He's back.
Yeah. Hey, the next one, I'm going to have a dedicated Ethernet cable connected.
Yeah, you've skipped in and out a few times here.
That's okay. We're making it work. Yeah. So back to this. This is my first my real design. $7,500. That's not countertops, of course. That does include the lighting and not the sink or the appliances. Stuck with just IKEA cabinetry, so nothing external, and that's a fair price for this size kitchen. This is a fairly large kitchen.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely not. You know what? We should do this again. We'll go We'll go small, single, small, or and tackle it from that side. You know what? $7,500 for that size of kitchen. Like, there's a lot of cabinetry in there.
There is,
There's a lot of cabinets in there.
Yeah, it's a big kitchen.
So you were $7,500. Did that include lighting?
Yeah, there's only about $430 some of lighting, and I only went with a couple puck lights inside the glass cabinets and the under cabinet lighting that's included when you purchase the IKEA cabinets. Like, it's already on the cabinet in the IKEA planner.
Okay, so I'm gonna go over my costs here, and then I want to circle back to lighting after for a quick second.
Oh yeah.
So my main kitchen, so this does not include the bar, coffee nook in the dining area, comes in at $9,412. And that is with with kitchen doors on the
Okay.
island,
All right.
but that does not include any lighting. No countertops,
Okay.
no lighting, no
Right.
interior organizers, nothing. That is just purely
Okay.
cabinetry and doors. So 9,400.
And that's not the hutch?
That is not the hutch. The
Okay.
hutch on its own, so the bar or coffee nook over comes in at 2,630 on its own.
Okay.
About
Fair.
$1,000 of that is aftermarket paneling. Not
Wow, okay.
quite. It's about $800. And after I actually reached out to both companies of people I know at both companies and got quotes. So
Okay.
so we're looking at so total I'm in at just over 12,000. So $12,040. Now, if I was to put lighting in this, I had about $700 and something worth of IKEA lighting included.
Okay.
So that would push me pretty close to the $13,000 mark for
Yeah.
my kitchen.
Yeah. That's a good, like those.
Mark keeps freezing in very awkward positions for himself. But yeah, it's in terms of pricing, again, I think it's important to stress that it seems very, very expensive, but in the grand scheme of a kitchen design, if you were comparing this to custom cabinetry, they aren't even on the same par or the same page in terms of total costs, especially in an area like mine, where a custom kitchen is going to run you at least 1.5 to 2 times that cost. And the beauty of going the IKEA route is everything they make fits in their cabinets. So all of their interior organizers fit smoothly in all their drawers. All of their boxes are very similar to a lot of third-party aftermarket kitchens that are let's say custom side of things. They're still using particle board with melamine boxes. You're just getting nicer doors. And that's one of the really nice things about including the aftermarket door option when it comes to kitchens is just because IKEA doesn't have a door you like doesn't mean you can't create a beautiful IKEA kitchen. You can use their guts, use their boxes, use their internalized organizers, use all their drawers, but then go to these aftermarket places. Whether you're in the States, it could be something like semi-handmade. If you're in Canada, we have Kitsch, we have All Style. There's semi-handmade. I just see a comment there. That's a great option. There's more and more options popping up now to really customize these IKEA kitchens. And I think it's important people think about it. And, it did, as a baseline, let's say your average IKEA door is somewhere around that $75 mark, $70 to $90 mark. You are looking typically in the double range. So that same door from an aftermarket company is typically around the $150 to $200 mark. So it definitely adds cost. But again, if you look at your kitchen versus mine, we're only talking a few grand different.
That's right.
In terms of aftermarket products. And when you're looking at a kitchen renovation, if you're hiring someone out to do it, these things can be in the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 renovation scales.
Easily, yeah.
$2,000 is really a drop in the bucket in the overall budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're working with contractors, it's often quite important to find ways to save money on some other objects to really get the look and design you want and the function you want out of your kitchen in the end.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Now, Jeff, you can probably make a comment on this quality of IKEA cabinets, because IKEA gets dumped on a lot for being like poor quality for a number of different reasons. So talk about that for a second, because you have a lot of experience with IKEA specifically, not only just designing it, but hands-on installing, and touch on that for a second.
Yeah. So we've got a big dog and 3 kids under the age of 10 who throw not only dog toys, but their toys at times, especially the littlest one who's still under 2. Our kitchen looks like the day it was installed. So I have no nicks. I have no paint chipping. I have no gouges. I have none of that in any of my doors. And I mean, our kitchen is like, when you say the kitchen's the hub of the home, it really is. Like, we spend a lot of time in our kitchen. It's a 100-year-old house. We don't have a huge house. So our main living area, kitchen, and dining area is all essentially amalgamated into one kind of long rectangle. So we spend a lot of time in there. And in terms of quality, I'm sure there are some doors made by IKEA that maybe I haven't worked with personally that might not hold up as well as some of their others. But I have experience with quite a few door options now, like personally installing them and working with them and working in the kitchens, and they've held up phenomenally well. Now, I compare that to a custom kitchen of people I know down the street from ours that has the same particle board boxes. So,
Right.
but they're custom. Let's throw
That's
it in
right, yeah.
brackets.
Yeah.
And then aftermarket wooden doors that are painted. And in 10 years, they've had their doors painted twice, and they still look all scratched up and beaten up, and I mean, kind of destroyed in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So just because something is custom doesn't necessarily mean it's better. That's a really important aspect to consider. So I love IKEA's durability. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. I mean, there is obviously downsides with it. You know, your MDF end panels, for example, if you have a cut one where it's got an open end, and say that open end is facing the floor and you spill a bunch of water right next to it, yes, it is going to suck it up. It's going to wick it up, and you're going to wind up with a little bit of bubbling. But I think if you understand these things and understand the installation side, you can really plan a kitchen where you don't have these cut portions in areas where they're going to get spilt.
Right.
I mean, the easiest way is I look under our kitchen sink where we use, that's our garbage area, our recycling area. We house our extra soap, all of that in there. And that area, yeah, you know, you might get the odd, say, a tea bag you're carrying into the garbage, it drips, it leaves a little brown stain. But I can go back a week later, wipe out that cabinet, and it looks like the day I put it together.
Right. Okay, good. That's good. Good to know from someone who has like a lot of hands-on experience, because you hear that a lot. I get a comment here about crap made whole. So
that's I mean, I will never speak ill of another RTA cabinet line. And when I say RTA, I mean ready to assemble cabinetry. I don't have a lot of firsthand experience with some of these other manufacturers. I can speak about IKEA Kitchen's quality, though. I think they've really set up their system to be exactly what it needs to be, an affordable kitchen that can be beautiful. The other important thing to remember is, you know, if your IKEA Kitchen doors, say 10 years down the line, you really don't like the look of that kitchen anymore, you don't need to go buy new cabinet boxes. You can go in, buy new drawer fronts, buy new doors, new filler panels, and for a quarter of the price of a kitchen, your kitchen can look vastly different. It's not going to be any different functionally, but it can it can look quite different.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we're pushing on just about an hour, Jeff. We're gonna wrap it up.
Is there anything else I wanted to go ahead?
No, go ahead.
That's what I'm going to say. The only other thing I wanted to circle back around to is when we were talking about lighting, in terms of design. Right. I always tell my clients, speak with your electricians. Don't just auto include IKEA's options in your kitchen. IKEA requires a lot of modules and a lot of wiring in order to do their stuff, and it's typically a little bit more of a convoluted system. Whereas, you know, if you speak with your electrician, it might be a few dollars more. Sometimes it's even less. But you can get under cab lightings that are all run on low voltage systems, or in drawer lighting that's all run on low voltage systems. It can all be wired in behind the walls and all switched on a direct normal switch panel, as opposed to having to buy IKEA's little dimmer toggles or anything like that.
Right.
So don't just auto assume your lighting should come from IKEA as well.
Right.
Talk with your electricians.
Yeah, or your appliances or anything else.
Or appliances,
yeah. Even countertops for that matter. Rose, thank you. We really appreciate it. This was a fun thing for us to do, because Jeff and I, in talking, YouTube can be kind of just this lonely, vast expanse of a place. And so to connect with other creators that are in our same niche, it's really fun and positive. And so we really enjoy the opportunity to do this. And, and hopefully it was valuable and entertaining. And
it's phenomenal, and be able to answer questions kind of on the fly as opposed to after the comments. So I appreciate everybody that came out to watch today, and I hope they all took away something of value from it.
Yeah, I think so. It was fun. I certainly did. I looked at your design, and it's you pick up stuff. The next one we're going to do in a month's time, Jeff, we're going to do it on your channel, right? And I will have dedicated Ethernet for this computer when we do that. So I'll actually be on the broadcast. But I do want to thank you for taking over when I dropped out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll jump over to my channel for the next one, and you'll get your internet sorted, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, so there'll be links in the description below to Jeff's channel, his video that went out today. So I highly recommend you go over there if you're not familiar with Jeff. Definitely just a great creator in the kitchen design space, and as you can tell, very well knowledge and versed not only in IKEA cabinets but in all things kitchen design. So definitely go check him out, and also subscribe while you're over there. I'll put that in, a little plug. And we just really want to thank you for showing up on the live stream. If you watch this live, really appreciate it. It is an honor that you were on here. And if you're watching the live stream, or the playback rather, thanks so much for being a part of this. So Jeff, any final thoughts or words you want to tell?
No, I think you about nailed it. Thank you everybody for coming out, whether you're watching live now or you're watching in the future. It's been a blast to kind of have a pseudo comparative design battle, if you will. It was really fun to put together without any strict parameters other than it having to be IKEA cabinetry. So we'll jump over to mine for the next one. I think we've already got a few ideas in mind about what we're gonna do. We're gonna change it up a little bit. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to our channels, and you'll see it coming up in a couple weeks' time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.